Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel. Not long ago, I was watching a game at a bar when a foreigner asked me, "China has such a huge population. Why is your football so bad?" Harsh as it sounded, it really cut to the core of the issue. And with the final two rounds of the 2026 FIFA World Cup Asian qualifiers just around the corner, I thought, what better time to talk about why Chinese football never seems to take off? I've talked before about China's whole nation system. Feel free to check out that video if you're interested. In Olympic sports, especially individual events like weightlifting, diving, or table tennis, it has worked quite well. These are events where relentless training, technical mastery, and coordination between one or two athletes can bring medals. But football is a team-based, highly tactical, and intensely competitive sport. And the moment you apply the rigid, top-down, whole-nation approach to something like football, the cracks begin to show. Additionally, men's football is one of the most heavily funded sports in China, especially after Xi Jinping openly declared his love for the sport. Every level of government began treating football as a political task. Officials chasing career promotions became obsessed with showmanship and formality, doing everything but the actual hard work, pushing Chinese football further into the abyss. 1. No separation between governance and operations, plus deep corruption. The biggest structural flaw is that the Chinese Football Association, CFA, both runs the professional league and manages the national team. That creates an inherent conflict of interest and concentration of power. Worse still, nearly every CFA chairman in recent decades has been jailed for corruption. These people weren't serving football, they were serving themselves and their political ambitions, interfering with team management and selections. Multiple national team coaches, both local and foreign, have complained that CFA officials directly interfered with starting lineups and squad selections. Even top-tier foreign managers are forced to accept Chinese assistant coaches, who in reality serve as watchdogs for the association. Refusing to follow their lead risks being sidelined or sabotaged. Entrenched clique culture. Selection for the national team is less about merit and more about relationships. Some players have even bribed coaches or officials to secure a national team spot, because being labeled a national player can mean a massive pay raise at club level. Absurd policies from the top. In the pursuit of World Cup glory as a political KPI, the CFA has implemented bizarre, anti-football regulations. For example, proposing that headers count as 2 goals to boost China's aerial advantage, forcing clubs to field age-eligible players ahead of the 2008 Beijing Olympics, or else forfeit the match. 2. Overseas players burned out by constant national team call-ups. There was once a promising generation of Chinese players abroad. Fan Ji captained a team in England. Li Tai and Sun Jihai played as starters in the Premier League. But their overseas careers were repeatedly derailed by excessive and mandatory call-ups to the national team, even for meaningless friendlies. Whether it was World Cup qualifiers, Asian Cup matches, or warm-up games, these players had to fly back and forth, disrupting their club schedules and training. Eventually, the physical and mental toll became too much, and many returned to play domestically during what should have been their prime. In China, refusing a national team call-up is tantamount to political treason. Just ask Wang Jiji, who once opted to stay in the US to train for the NBA rather than join China's national basketball team for friendlies. He was blacklisted for years and only allowed back after a public apology and fine. 3. Moneyball destroyed professionalism. Starting in 2013, China entered its so-called Moneyball era. Billionaire investors poured in cash, and domestic player salaries soared to unimaginable heights. Players with mediocre ability were earning more than their counterparts in Europe's top leagues. That kind of easy money killed ambition. Why work hard abroad when you can earn millions staying home and barely breaking a sweat? Young players began coasting, unmotivated, unfit, and undisciplined. Even those who had trained abroad on their own dime came back home to chase high-paying, low-effort club contracts. 4. A rotten youth system that destroys talent. On the surface, China claims to care about youth development. In reality, the system is disorganized, culturally toxic, and morally bankrupt. Even the most talented kids risk being sidelined, suppressed, or literally injured out of the sport. Toxic team culture. Promising youth players entering senior squads are taught to fit in, not stand out. Smoking, drinking, junk food. These are normalized. If a young player insists on discipline and professionalism, they're often alienated on the field, teammates won't pass them the ball, and their potential goes unrealized. Coaches encourage injury tactics. In youth tournaments, it's not uncommon to hear coaches instruct their players to go hard on the opposition's star player. Or worse, break his leg. This not only ruins the opponent's future, but destroys their own player's sense of sportsmanship. Crushing rising stars. Take Zhang Xiaorui, a golden boy from the famous Janlibao youth training camp in Brazil. In national team practice, he humiliated a senior player with his skills. That player responded by violently tackling him, causing a serious injury that derailed Zhang's career. Fake ages, fake glory. Youth-level success is often inflated because many players are older than their reported age. In youth football, being 2 years older makes a massive physical difference. These wins mean nothing in the long run. When these players graduate to the adult level, their lack of real ability is exposed. 5. Naturalized players are just going through the motions. In recent years, China began naturalizing foreign-born players, some with Chinese ancestry, others long-time foreign residents like Elkerson and Aloisio, in a desperate attempt to revive the national team. But once they got their passports and their massive paychecks, these players immediately checked out. At club level, they scored freely. In national team duty, they barely showed up, mentally or physically. Why? 2 reasons. First, they lost motivation after getting paid. Plain and simple. Second, and more crucially, they understood China's football culture too well. If they performed too well, they'd overshadow local players, triggering backlash from fans, media, and teammates. It could even prompt calls for more foreign naturalizations, threatening local players' income and jobs. So these China veterans learn to play it safe. Don't show up the locals, don't get hurt, don't cause trouble. Just collect the paycheck and move on. At first glance, it looks like China's football problems are about things like bad youth training, messy leagues, weak tactics, or lazy players. But the real issue is much deeper. It's the system itself. As long as sports are controlled by politics, and government officials keep making decisions instead of letting professionals run things, it won't matter how much money is spent, what changes are made, or how many foreign players are brought in. Nothing will truly improve. So here's my bottom line. If this version of the Chinese men's national team ever qualifies for the World Cup, it would be an insult to the sport of football itself.
The national football team's humiliating loss is now the hottest topic in China's sports world. Let's see Fan Zhiyi's comments on General Fan, always straightforward. The national football team lost the game like this. Maybe they don't want to show their faces anymore.
You mentioned functional department. How many football ASIC chairmen change between terms? It can't be altered, just changing suit, not medicine. Camacho also had a reason to say, what team am I leading? I lead the Spanish team. What kind of people are you? You asked me to lead? Don't you know you lack ability? What is the current level of Chinese football? There are just a few people, and Yu Xiaopeng, etc., are playing as central defenders. Can he kick? He can't play. He don't have the ability. You know? If we continue like this, we'll lose to Vietnam. After losing to Thailand, we'll lose to Myanmar. Now no one is losing.
On the other hand, the Chinese team is the earliest team preparing for the 2018 World Cup.
Oh, thank God. I have already said that you haven't laid a good foundation for such a competition. Can you guarantee that he can win in 2017 or 2016? Be pragmatic. I advise you to understand your own tactics and the concept of football first. Xiaogao led them very well. Why did you replace him? Losing 1-5 in Hefei? How do you explain that? So shameless.
Like, comment, and share if you found this insightful. I'll see you in the next video.